the whole thing that happened recently was pretty wild. I feel like it reveals a lot about the psyche of these conservative guys. Because all Steven Crowder talks about are these traditional values, monogamy, men should serve women, women should serve men, blah, blah, blah. And like, I was saying this on my personal Twitter. Like, I have some quote unquote conservative or traditional leanings in my personal life. Like, I don't want an open relationship. I don't think that works. I think it leads to like jealousy and the relationship crumbling 99.9% of the time. So I don't want that, but I don't spend all my time talking about how everybody should do the kind of marriage that I like and everybody should follow this traditional marriage. And even to Steven Crowder's point, he'll argue that the state should enforce the kind of marriage that he likes. Right? And that's his whole politics, is talking about how everyone should adhere to my traditional values and blah, 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 blah. Like, why not just adhere to them yourself? Right? If you have these traditional values that, you care about personally, just live that kind of lifestyle, live a monogamous lifestyle. But of course, as Steven Crowder is on his TV show pushing the idea that everyone needs to be in a traditional marriage and men and women need to play these specific roles and blah, 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 he's abusing his wife behind the scenes. He's being a piece of crap behind the scenes. So in his own personal life, he's not following any kind of values that would lead to a healthy and respectful marriage, while he yells at everybody else on his show for not following his values, his marriage values or whatever. And we'll watch the video. It's kind of disturbing, just FYI, to see this guy scream at his wife. And then Steven's response, I feel like, was revealing as well.
Respect, he said, then we're at an impasse. Steven, no, we are at an impasse, okay? I love you, but Steven, your abuse is sick. Your abuse
Watch it.
Is sick.
Watch it.
Fuck. This is such a... She tells him that his abuse is sick, and he goes, watch it. Watch it. You're such a beast, Steven. Way to bully your wife from the privacy of your own home. When I hear his wife say, watch it, I want to jump through the screen and be like, no, you watch it. You freaking man-child. What the hell are you going to do? He can't do anything to someone like me, which is why he has to go home and bully his pregnant wife like a man-child.
Can you watch it?
I'm going to let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. We need to just have
respect. He said, then we're at an impasse.
Steven, no, we are at an impasse.
Discipline and respect, but only for you. I don't have to have discipline and respect. Only you. So this was released by Yashar Ali, a journalist. He posted the full video somewhere, probably on his Substack. But yeah, here it is. It was captured with a Ring camera. But it's wild. It's wild to see that anyone would treat their significant other this way, let alone somebody who goes on TV or goes on radio or goes on wherever, YouTube, every day, and tells people that they need to follow traditional values, follow the kind of marriage guidelines that were set out by God. Speaking of, we were talking about evangelical Christians earlier. Is this what God would want, Stephen? Is this what you mean when you're talking about the kind of marriage that God intended? A marriage where your wife has to serve you like a slave, and if not, you'll threaten her? It's so gross. It's gross. But what I found most interesting about this was Steven Crowder's response, which was posted. I mean, Yashar Ali posted his response too. It's kind of hard to find. Steven isn't just putting this out there like on his YouTube channel and stuff, but I guess it's on his Twitter here. But I found his response to be quite interesting as well. So let's check this out. And this relates to Marxism, promise. The patriarchal family can't be saved. Yeah, we're going to talk about the patriarchal family. I'll save that comment for a bit.
I commented on my ongoing divorce on Tuesday, requesting privacy in the best interest of the family, but also by court order agreed upon by all parties. Look, broken marriages are ugly, and in them people do ugly things. Myself, of course included, I would never claim otherwise. However, due to recent misleadingly edited leaks to the tabloid press without context and not subject to consequences of the court, well, if not privacy, the next best option is truth. So today, I have filed a motion to officially unseal all files as they relate to the matter of legal record. Finances, relevant medical records, including mental health history or evaluations, depositions, and any motions or sanctions from the courts of Texas. I will not be leaking private marital information to the press, but if the privacy agreements are not respected by all parties, I will address all that is a matter of irrefutable legal record in full context next week. I commented on my ongoing divorce on Tuesday, requesting privacy and never claim otherwise. Edited leaks to the...
Misleading.
Well, if not privacy, the next best option is truth.
So this isn't the video I was actually looking for, or that I wanted to bring up. There's a video where he says that my wife left me. I'm not leaving her, which you're allowed to do in the state of Texas. He says, like, lamenting that fact. Lamenting the fact that the state of Texas will allow his wife to dissolve the marriage and to leave him. Which, in Engel's Origins of the Family, Private Property, and the State, when he's talking about the monogamous patriarchal family, he talks about how there are levels to the patriarchy, or there are stages of development in the patriarchy. Because if you don't know, society started out as a matriarchy. So they had group marriages rather than monogamous marriages, which means the men wouldn't necessarily know which kid was theirs, right? Because there would be multiple men sleeping with multiple women. So you wouldn't necessarily know whose kid was whose because they didn't have technology for a paternity test back then. There was no Maury in the caveman era. So what they would do is just trace lineage by the mother, because the mother gave birth to the kid. They would know that that child was theirs. So lineage was went through the mom, and that established what was called maternal law. Now, over time, with the development of production and the development of wealth, and wealth that individuals wanted to hoard, you have the development of the patriarchy and the monogamous family, which gives men, it's basically a gendered form of class struggle between men and women, where men are trying to dominate the wealth, men are trying to dominate the laws in society, pretty much every aspect of society. So they come to dominate society just by the fact that they're men. So this is what we call the patriarchy. Now, the patriarchy reaches its highest stage of development when men are allowed to have multiple wives, right? So they don't have to follow the rules of monogamy. And when men can dissolve the marriage, but women can't. Right. So men have the ability to divorce their wives, but women don't have the ability to divorce the man. This is the height of patriarchy. And that is exactly what Steven Crowder is arguing for here. Right. He's abusing his wife behind the scenes. And when she finally comes forward about the abuse and tries to dissolve the marriage so that she can be happy, Steven says, oh, why is the state of Texas letting her do this? The state of Texas should force her to be with me, so I can continue to abuse her. That's what he's arguing for, which, if you think about it, what is he arguing for other than the maintenance of patriarchy and the maintenance of capitalism on his show every day? Right? He's going home and being the worst husband imaginable while he goes on his show and argues that the patriarchy and the legal system should prevent his wife from dissolving the marriage, the abusive marriage that he's created. So it's and as I said, it's a form of class struggle. Like, Steven wants his wife to be forced to do all this domestic labor, right? Which is why he only has one car despite being a multimillionaire. And in that video, he's arguing about all these wifely duties that his wife needs to do for him. He wants someone that he can force to do all of the domestic labor for him so he can sit on his lazy butt. And he wants the state, Mr. Small Government Conservative Steven Crowder wants the state to force his wife to remain in that position remain as basically a domestic slave for him, which is what the patriarchy is all about, which is why women have always been saddled with all the domestic labor under capitalism. Steven Crowder just wants that to be legally enforced, right? And it's an economic thing. It has an economic basis. It's a form of gendered class struggle, like I said. But he shrouds it in this mist of, oh, no, this is just traditional conservative values that I support. You know, this is the kind of legal system that God would want, where women aren't allowed to dissolve the marriage with the men. Like, no, you just want to trap your wife in the house so she has to take care of the dogs and pick up the medicine and take care of the child that she's pregnant with, while you can make YouTube videos for 2 hours a day and not have to worry about any of the domestic labor. That's what it is. And it comes back to class, just like the patriarch or struggle between patriarchy and matriarchy, or struggle between man and women throughout history and throughout the development of human societies. But this is just it in modern form. And, you know, we've reached a level because of women's struggles where women do have the right to divorce, where women are allowed to leave abusive relationships and abusive marriages, thank God. And Stephen's not even okay with that. He's not even okay with a little bit of patriarchy. He needs the full patriarchy. He needs the government to come in and say, no, you literally can't dissolve this marriage with Steven Crowder. You have to remain a domestic servant to him. Steven Crowder is the epitome of patriarchy, which I'm sure he would say doesn't exist, right? And yeah, like the term patriarchy probably gets overused by liberal feminists, but it's a real thing. And as I said, it directly relates. It's directly rooted in the class struggle and materialist analysis of human societies. We used to have a matriarchy, right? These are real societal institutions or real descriptors of society that exist. They're not just ideological or idealistic, or ways for liberal feminists to attack anybody who disagrees with them. So yeah, that's the downfall of Steven Crowder. Wild. I had a buddy who always told me I need to watch Steven Crowder because of how smart he is. And I sent him a whole bunch of links to what happened with Steven Crowder getting caught up lately. I was like, this is a smart guy. You were right. No. Actually, no. Actually, he's just a stand for the patriarchy. Fine, Crowder, we're going to bring in the traditional value of putting men like you in barrels with just tiny holes for your head and hands while insects eat you alive. Yes, bring back all the traditional values. What was the one thing they would do? Like when they would tie someone really messed up, they would like tie all their limbs to like a horse, like 4 different horses, and have them run in different directions. Let's bring that as back as a traditional value. Anybody who can't be a good husband gets tied to 4 horses who just take off. I find it so crazy that he talks to his wife like she's a liberal that he's trying to rip into on his show. I noticed this too. And this scared me, right? I was like, in my relationship, I need to make absolutely sure I'm never using like my argumentation and rhetorical skills that I've learned from doing these streams and doing the TikToks and doing politics against my girlfriend as of now. But, you know, eventual fiance, wife, whatever. Because that is what Steven Crowder's doing. It sounds like he's talking to some stupid lib on his show and he's trying to own them. And it's like, dude, this isn't a debate. You're not debating somebody on your YouTube show. You're talking to your wife. You're talking to your wife about your pregnant wife about dividing the domestic labor, which is what he's ultimately mad at her for, is that she won't go pick up dog medicine, which is toxic to pregnant women. But he didn't care. He still wanted his pregnant wife to go pick up that medicine. He couldn't do it himself. So like I said, it all comes back to the domestic labor. But he's talking to her like he's trying to own her. He's talking to her like this. Oh, you said you would have been blah, 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 prove me wrong. And I don't know. It's almost like he's incapable of having real relationships. He's just a grifter to the point where the grift has infected how he interacts with his wife. Comment Eddie, I just got even more new books. Holy cow, Jacob. How many books did you get? I saw your TikTok earlier with all the books. That's awesome, man. Congrats. Good job. He wanted her to take dog medicine. No, he wanted her to pick up the dog medicine. So that was part of what they were fighting about. And she was like, the dog medicine you want me to pick up for your dogs is toxic to pregnant women. He was like, I don't care. You refuse to do wifely duties, blah, blah, blah. And then he was refusing to let her take the car to get some space from him. Because they only have one car. This guy was multimillionaire. You saw there was like a hot tub and a pool in his backyard. But he only has one car. And people were pointing out on Twitter that this is almost surely something that he does on purpose to try and control his wife. Right? Like if his wife has her own car, that's so much freedom. She can up and leave him at any time. She could dissolve the marriage at any time. And clearly he didn't want that. He said that the state of Texas should prevent her from doing that. So he keeps one car as a method of control, which is something that you wouldn't even think about. Right? Or something that I didn't even think about until I saw people pointing it out. But Crowder is the embodiment of labor relations in the U.S., coercion rather than mutual ownership / collaboration. Yeah, and even the labor relations, like I said, between man and woman when it comes to the domestic labor. Because that labor is unpaid, right? Like wage labor, you at least get paid a wage. Domestic labor is something that every household has to do that is completely unpaid and for years has been placed on women. And that's part of what the patriarchy is men can just keep women taking care of the house for free while men are off accumulating wealth, which is why the patriarchy emerged with the evolutions in production that allowed for humans to hoard and store more wealth than what they could consume all at once. So men began trying to claim private or start taking claim of private properties, start taking ownership of land, the means of production, and these hoards of wealth, and start relegating women to domestic labor in the home. It's, like I said, a form of class struggle that takes place between the genders. And this is just a modern form of that, right? Steven's mad that his wife isn't doing the domestic labor that he expects of her. Thank you so much, Duck Hash Browns. Appreciate you being a YouTube member and the $5 super sticker. We got a lot of super stickers and super chats on the last stream, which I had to end kind of early, and I felt sort of bad about that. So I'm hoping to go longer in this stream to pay you all back for your generous financial support of Midwestern Mark. So I love it. It takes 2 seconds for me to do dishes. Why does it take you hours? Past partner. In reality, they never completed an entire group of dishes. They would do a couple and start doing something else. Yeah, and people are like delusional. Like, if you are a manipulator like Steven Crowder and you just give up on introspection and being internally honest with yourself, and if you just think you're always right and you're always the man, which is kind of, again, that's sort of the attitude that he has in politics, that he has when he's debating people, this sort of brash arrogance that's part of his persona. That seems to have translated into his personal life. But guys like that, they think they're doing everything correct. They think they're doing everything right, and they'll create this distorted form of reality in order to manipulate their partner and then try and convince their partner that their distorted form of reality is the truth. Dishes were from nights of drinking with friends every night, never again. And that's when substances get involved. And sorry to hear that, Moon Factor. Not to bring up really sensitive topics, because I know these are sensitive topics, which is why I gave a warning before we played the Steven Crowder video. But once you get substances involved, that's when it's rough. And who knows? Like, I don't want to speculate about Steven Crowder, but he pretends to be this upstanding Christian guy who would never touch a drug. But especially with the rise of pharmaceuticals, you never know. So, 100% spot on. Good. Glad to see it. Glad people agree. Apparently, some Fox News host Crowder hung out with said that at a bar he asked for a glass of milk. I don't know why that's so funny to me. It's like because he tries to be like the everyman. Like Steven Crowder pretends to be like a Midwestern working class guy. But as someone from the Midwest, I've never gone into a bar and seen someone order a damn glass of milk. Like, I've seen people order water. I've seen people order Mountain Dew. I've seen people freaking slam Red Bulls repeatedly because they didn't want to drink and they just got hyped up on the caffeine. I know a guy who would slam like 8 Red Bulls and go to the bar. He would just be hyped, and he was a really fun, really social guy. Never in my life have I seen someone order a glass of milk. Could I have a glass of warm milk, please? I don't know why that's so funny to me. But in the Midwest, there's probably a cow out back, and they just like, here you go. Just milk it straight in there.